where we bring untold stories to light, fight for justice, and amplify the voices of those who have been silenced. Today, we confront a story that's both heartbreaking and infuriating. It's a story about a young man, Daniel Robinson, who vanished in the Arizona desert in 2021. A brilliant geologist, a loving son, and a friend to many, Daniel left his job site one June morning and was never seen again. Despite tireless efforts from his family, the discovery of his wrecked vehicle, and troubling inconsistencies in the investigation, Daniel remains missing. This case raises urgent questions, not just about Daniel's disappearance, but about the disparities in how missing persons cases are treated in America, particularly when the missing person is a person of color. In the United States, over 600,000 people are reported missing every year, according to the National Crime Information Center. While many cases are resolved, tens of thousands remain unsolved, leaving families to endure years or even decades of uncertainty and heartbreak. Disturbingly, the disparities in how these cases are treated are stark. Black Americans, who make up 13% of the U.S. population, account for 35% of missing person cases, yet they often receive less media coverage and public attention compared to cases involving white individuals. The phenomenon known as missing white woman syndrome highlights how the media tends to disproportionately focus on missing persons who fit a specific profile, often sidelining stories like Daniel's. Despite tireless efforts from his family, the discovery of his wrecked vehicle, and troubling inconsistencies in the investigation, Daniel remains missing. His case raises urgent questions, not just about the circumstances of his disappearance, but about systemic inequities in the way missing persons cases are handled in America. How does someone vanish in the middle of the desert, with so many clues left behind, yet so few answers uncovered? Why do some stories capture national attention while others fade into obscurity? Today, we demand answers. This is the story of Daniel Robinson. 2. Understand the gravity of Daniel's disappearance. Let's first understand who Daniel was. Born on January 14, 1997, Daniel Robinson grew up in a family that cherished him deeply. He was born without his lower right arm, but he never let that define him. Instead, he thrived. An avid athlete, he tackled life's challenges with resilience and determination. In 2017, Daniel graduated from the College of Charleston with a degree in geology. His passion for the earth and science led him to Arizona, where he began working as a hydrogeologist for Matrix New World. His job involved analyzing and ensuring water safety in the desert, a role that reflected both his expertise and his dedication to the environment. But beyond his academic and professional achievements, Daniel was deeply compassionate. Friends and family described him as someone who loved nature, adventure, and connecting with people. He was a thinker, a dreamer, and someone with a bright future ahead of him. All of this makes his disappearance even more devastating. How could someone with so much life and potential simply vanish? June 23, 2021, it was supposed to be a normal day. Daniel arrived at a job site near Sun Valley Parkway and Cactus Road in Buckeye, Arizona, around 9 a.m. He was conducting routine well checks, a task he'd done many times before. But that day, something was different. Around 9:45 a.m., Daniel abruptly left the job site without explanation. Witnesses described him as distracted and not himself. He drove his 2017 Jeep Renegade westward into the desert. That was the last confirmed sighting of Daniel Robinson. Hours turned into days, and when Daniel's family couldn't reach him, his father, David Robinson, reported him missing. The Buckeye Police Department launched an initial search, but the rough terrain of the desert and limited clues made the efforts challenging. Then, nearly a month later, on July 19, 2021, Daniel's Jeep was found overturned in a desert ravine by a landowner. The vehicle had significant damage, with its airbags deployed. Inside the Jeep were Daniel's cell phone, wallet, keys, and a pile of his clothes. The discovery should have been a breakthrough, but instead it deepened the mystery. Why was Daniel's clothing removed? What caused the crash? Why wasn't the vehicle found earlier, despite extensive searches in the area? The questions multiplied, but the answers remained elusive. The discovery of Daniel Robinson's Jeep raised more questions than it answered, leading to a complex investigation involving both law enforcement and private experts. Upon Daniel's disappearance on June 23, 2021, The Buckeye Police Department initiated a search near the job site at Sun Valley Parkway and Cactus Road. He was entered into the National Missing Persons database that evening. On July 19, 2021, nearly a month later, a rancher discovered Daniel's 2017 blue-gray Jeep Renegade overturned in a ravine. The vehicle had significant damage with the airbags deployed. Inside, authorities found Daniel's personal belongings, including his cell phone, wallet, keys, and a pile of his clothes. The police noted that the rough terrain had delayed the vehicle's discovery during earlier search efforts. Despite these findings, the Buckeye Police Department stated that there was no evidence of foul play. They suggested that Daniel might have voluntarily walked away from the crash site, possibly due to a mental health crisis. However, this theory did not sit well with Daniel's family, who felt that the investigation lacked depth and urgency. Frustrated by the perceived shortcomings of the official investigation, Daniel's father, David Robinson, hired Jeff McGrath, a private investigator specializing in accident reconstruction. McGrath's analysis uncovered several troubling inconsistencies: vehicle data, additional mileage. The Jeep's black box data revealed that the vehicle had been driven approximately 11 miles after the airbags deployed, contradicting the assumption that it remained stationary post-crash. Ignition cycles. The ignition had been turned over 46 times after the crash, suggesting repeated attempts to restart the vehicle. Paint transfer. Red paint was found on the Jeep, indicating a prior collision with another vehicle before it ended up in the ravine. Timeline discrepancies. A local rancher familiar with the area reported that the Jeep was not present in the ravine on July 17th, implying it appeared there between July 17th and July 19th. The presence of Daniel's clothes inside the vehicle also perplexed investigators. Why would he remove his clothing in the middle of the desert? This detail, combined with the other findings, left the Robinson family and McGrath deeply concerned about foul play. After Daniel's disappearance, someone entered his apartment in Tempe, ransacked his closet, and accessed his laptop. Forensic analysis indicated that this individual had been looking at Daniel's search history and just fooling around on this computer. These findings led McGrath to suggest that the accident scene may have been staged, and he raised concerns about potential foul play. The Robinson family echoed these concerns, feeling that critical evidence had been overlooked or dismissed by law enforcement. David Robinson has been relentless in his pursuit of answers, organizing independent search efforts, hiring experts, and advocating for a more thorough investigation. Despite these efforts, progress has been slow, and many questions remain unanswered. Why was Daniel's Jeep driven additional miles after the crash? What explains the red paint transfer on the vehicle? Who accessed Daniel's apartment and personal computer after his disappearance? The Buckeye Police Department has maintained that there is no evidence of foul play, but the inconsistencies highlighted by the private investigation suggest that more comprehensive investigative efforts are warranted. The case of Daniel Robinson underscores the challenges and frustrations that families often face when a loved one goes missing, particularly when investigations yield more questions than answers. While the Buckeye Police Department maintained that no evidence of foul play had been found, the private investigators' findings suggested otherwise. The gaps in the timeline, the condition of the Jeep, and the lack of definitive answers raised critical questions. Was Daniel's disappearance voluntary, or was he the victim of foul play? Who, if anyone, moved the Jeep into the ravine days after it was initially searched? What could explain the red paint transfer and the additional miles driven after the crash? David Robinson has repeatedly called for more transparency and urgency from law enforcement. He believes that the investigation lacked the thoroughness and dedication required for cases like Daniel's. The Robinson family, supported by McGrath's findings, continues to push for answers and accountability. The inconsistencies in the investigation have cast a long shadow over Daniel Robinson's disappearance, leaving a cloud of doubt and unanswered questions that continues to haunt his family and supporters. From the moment Daniel vanished, critical leads appear to have been either overlooked or dismissed too quickly by authorities, sparking frustration and mistrust in the investigative process. Here are some hard facts to swallow. Disproportionate representation. While Black Americans make up approximately 14% of the U.S. population, they account for nearly 40% of all missing persons cases. Media coverage disparities. A study published in 2015 found that missing Black children comprised about 33% of all missing child cases, but only received 7% of media references. Age and gender factors. According to FBI data, Young black females are disproportionately represented among missing persons. While black individuals constitute around 14% of the U.S. population, they represent a higher percentage of missing persons cases, with young black women being particularly affected. Media bias in coverage. An analysis of 6 missing persons cases revealed that white individuals receive more media coverage, both in a shorter time frame and over the years, compared to missing people of color. Public perception and awareness. Tools like Are You Pressworthy? Have highlighted that younger white women are more likely to receive extensive news coverage when they go missing, underscoring the biases in media attention. The Buckeye Police Department's initial narrative suggested that Daniel may have voluntarily disappeared, possibly due to a mental health crisis, but this explanation does not align with the evidence uncovered by the private investigator, nor does it sit well with those who knew Daniel best. Key anomalies from the crash scene, such as the additional miles driven after the airbags deployed, the repeated attempts to restart the vehicle, and the timeline discrepancies regarding the Jeep's location, point to a scenario far more complex than a simple accident or voluntary departure. The presence of red paint transfer on the vehicle and the suspicious activity in Daniel's apartment after his disappearance further complicate the case. These details raise troubling questions. Was the crash scene staged to divert attention from foul play? Did someone else drive the Jeep to its final location in the ravine? Who accessed Daniel's personal belongings and tampered with his laptop after his disappearance, and why? While law enforcement has maintained that no evidence of foul play has been found, the Robinson family and their private investigator argue that the investigation has failed to explore critical lines of inquiry. This divide has left Daniel's loved ones in a heartbreaking limbo, forced to take on much of the burden themselves to uncover the truth. The evidence paints a picture of a case far from resolved. It suggests the possibility of something far more sinister, an act of foul play that, if ignored, risks leaving justice unserved and answers out of reach. For Daniel's family, the search for answers is not just about finding their loved one. It's about accountability. It's about ensuring that no stone is left unturned, no detail is dismissed, and no person is forgotten. Until these questions are addressed, Daniel's disappearance will remain a chilling reminder of how easily cases like his can be mishandled or misunderstood. His story demands more scrutiny, more urgency, and above all, more justice.